But this one's cherry and walnut. I use cherry from the box and walnut, and you'll notice they're both really straight grain, and that's key. Straight grain. You just want them as straight as you can get. I mean, and if you're gonna, if you really want to make a fancy one and use like a crotchwood walnut or something, that's fine. But use it for inserts, or I'm fooling around with the idea of gluing a piece of straight grain on top of it and find a nice way of transition into it, so you can have real fancy size. But this one was cherry and walnut, and I built it a couple years ago, and I wasn't able to go to turkey hunting this spring because of the auto accident I was in. But the year before last, I called 6 toms to the gun with this. I killed 2. I killed my first one opening morning, and then called one that afternoon for a kid that was with us, and then next day I killed my second tag, and then the following, in 3 days I called it 6 toms, but so I called 2, 3, and 2, 3. Yeah, 2, 3, 1. Yeah, that was it. But I was trying to remember it was 1, 2, or 3. So I called it 2 the first day. But anyway, it's 2, 3, 1. But anyway, this one works, and it's start off a little too hard there. It rolls over real nice. That's the high side. This is the lower side. A little raspier. And the difference is the thicknesses and how it ends up on top. And it's just guess and golly. You get started, I rough them out, and then I use anything to scrape with. And where's my scrapers? Anyway, oh, here they are. These scrapers I'll use on edge like this, and you actually use them down in there, and just keep working. It just comes right off in there. And it just by thinning them, you tune them.
All the way down the same thickness?
No, that's the other thing. As you can feel right here, you can feel how it rolls up into it. See what I'm saying? And then some of these you'll notice, I'll hand them around, pass them around, or these a little bit. That the thickness changes from the bottom to the top. Now this one here, since we're talking about thicknesses, there's different ways to thin. This one I do with a plunge router, and I thin it with the table saw. So and that's uniform thickness all the way down. So it has no taper. I can do the same thing with the tapered bit, and it won't be uniform all the way down. But I'll go ahead and get into talking about how I do it. I do everything at a 5 degree slope on a tilt on the table saw, and also there's 2 ways there's 2 methods to do it. I do it with plunge routers a lot, but I brought these along. Simply take it on a drill press. I use a 1-inch Forstner bit and rough it out. And then this one, I use my Fordham tool with this ball, and I'm taking this work here and get it down in there, and that fits right down in this. Fits right down in here. Carefully put it down in there and just start working my way down and just rough it out. Okay, so now I've got it down here. With the Forstner bit, you got a squared off bottom. You got to leave plenty of material on the bottom, and you can put your fingers on here and feel the difference in the thickness in order to get down in there and round off the bottom. So then I'm going straight down the middle of this, and it's thinner in the center than it is on the corners of the walls. Okay, and that's prior to doing anything on the table saw with this, other than just cutting out the blank. Okay.
Is the thickness of the bottom equal to the thickness of the sides, or is it?
No, it varies. Yeah, and I keep the bottom thicker than I do the base of the sides, and obviously the thinner at the top. But I've been doing that, and I like. So I think you can feel this one. This one's about the same, but it's just a hair thicker on the bottom. If you'll take it this way, is that you can screw up and get too deep, okay? When you're trying to round off these corners. Well, so here, the way I do it to make sure I don't is if I'm gonna get real exaggerated 5-degree angles on the ends, I take my Forster bit, and you can see where I've taken it down all the way, but I stopped short on the 2 ends. And then I take that ball again on my Fordham tool, and I grind that down. Well, because I have a step here, I can make that transition a little nicer, and without fear of grinding my way through the center. Because I did the first time I did it, I did grind my way through too thin on the bottom. It was paper thin, so I just threw it away. But I just kind of roughed this one out. This by all means not uniform and finished, but that just shows you the step on the ends. Okay, so those are all if I do them by hand with a drill press and the Fordham tool. Now what I did is I made these jigs for doing with plunge routers. Now everybody familiar with the plunge router? It's just 1/2-inch bits. These are the bits I use. Just a straight side, straight bottom, but I have a fluted bit. Now this is the 5/8 fluted. You can get a 1/2-inch fluted too, but I have this, and so I keep using it. I had a 1/2-inch fluted bit on the job. I got one of the guys borrowed it and dropped my router and busted the base and busted the end off my bit. He replaced the bit by giving me the amount of money I haven't done. Replaced the bit here because I had the 5/8 and I don't have much fluted anymore. I used to do a lot of fireplace screws. But anyway, so what I do is this. These are 7 1/4. I just happen to have the wood that cut it 7 1/4 inches long. It's 7 1/2 inch, but you can also use it for a 9 because you can put it on your blank. You can just put it on the blank and get your curve on here. And if you just hold it up just a hair, about 1/4 inch, or I can make a 9-inch one. But I just use this to hold it up here, put my curve on, and where it tapers out here is roughly 9 inches. But I don't sit down and say, okay, I'm going to make a 9-inch. It's going to be around a 9-inch box. But I just use, and these are cedar. Now I'll point that out. These are red cedar, and should touch on the woods a little better or a little more. I like to use walnut paddles just because I have a lot of straight grain walnut. I've got some that straight grain cherry that'll make a good paddle too. Cedar makes a damn good box. It's a soft wood. It makes some really nice sounds. Probably the majority of the boxes you have out there that are commercial are cedar. And white cedar, red cedar, neither one, doesn't matter. I just had a ton of this red cedar from doing decks over the years, and I just threw it in the corner and I buzzed it up and let having it dry. I've got a lot of white cedar left over from when I'm sizing my decoys that I carve, and the same thing. It's sitting in the corner and I'll bust some of that. But I just grabbed a bunch of red cedar. Don't ever use. There's some stuff. Don't use Osage orange. Don't use like teak. It's oily. You want it to be a non-oily wood. Again, if you like the look of Osage orange or the look of teak, or you got a nice piece, use an insert on your paddle. Just use your plunger router with a straight bit or something, and route it out and insert if you got a real pretty piece of wood. But you can't. But don't use oily woods. Just stay away from oily woods. Any of our domestic woods. Pretty much all of them use, like I say, this one's sumac. That's just a piece of sumac. John Pasusta, I was over at his place a while back, and he made one that he doesn't have a drill press, so the way he roughs out all his boxes, chainsaw. He clamps the piece along. He's got a little jig, and he just walks in there with his chainsaw and gets it knocked out, and then he gets his Forster bit just to get something to get started. And he works it out with it. It's pretty funny. But anyway, so those are the patterns. And these, this is a pretty typical pattern. If you want to draw a picture off the pattern, even off these boxes, that's fine too. But you can see how it's concave. All these boxes, when they get to the finished state, have that concave, and you want that. And I'll show you why in a minute. But anyway, so if I'm going to do it with the plunge router, which is this box, and this box, I'll show you those. you can make, I make these up, just if I got this piece of wood, it fit in there, so I made this one. Okay, I got one at home, this piece of wood fit in there, so I just pull this one over, shoot it on the gun. Run over to the drill press, take a square, these things, so make sure they're parallel, make 3 lines across here, and drill holes in there for the dowels that I have in the shop. Put those dowels in there, and that gives me a location that just, if I want to make a 7.5 inch box or a 9 inch box or a shorter box, it just, it just gives me some, variation. But anyway, and then what I do to hold the piece in place, I'll use this one, is I drop it in there, and I have this other one that I've just glued that piece on, it sits right like that one on there, and the reason I use these is because they drop down out of the way. And that's going to hold it in place. It's not going anywhere. And then cut blocks for the right height. There again, the hell's the other one? Here it is. Put that right there. And then I locate this over I've cut this out for the collet, I'll show you the collets on my plunge router. And so put that down there, and I put on the corner of a table in my shop where I can clamp here, and it clamps the whole thing down to the table, holds it in place. That holds this down, and this is held down, although it's hard to get it to come out now, but you can do it. But this will hold that down, puts it in place. And I got a number of routers because I'm a woodworker, but all these collets fit on my big 5-horse, but also it'll fit on the 1-horse Rockwell, slides it down. This one, right size, but here's right size, so that your bit fits inside this collet, okay, and it's sitting on your router, and then you got your bit coming out of the collet. In the case of a plunge router, of course, it's sitting up here, and then we plunge through. All right. The purpose of that is this collet rides inside this jig. All right. And then as you ride inside this jig, it keeps the blade from getting into your jig, obviously. So it's sitting there, and then when I hit the plunge, it goes down, and I take it about 3 different bites. I go down about, say, 1/2 inch first time in this piece of wood. All right. So I'm just going to cut in a 1/2 inch. All right. When I go in around this, and then I hit my lever, plunge it another 1/2 inch, take it around again. Okay. Plunge another 1/2 inch. Now I've already got a preset depth on the plunge router. You can preset it, and then when I hit the depth, and I stop. Also, sometimes in between, it won't clean out very well. Bring the plunge back up, blow it out, and go back in. Now, if you don't have a plunge router, you can use a regular router to get some of these collets. Okay, that's what you're going to want to do is prior to go over to your drill press, use your forcer bit and start a pilot hole. All right, go all the way to the depth you want. So this one can set in here, and then you're just going to take your typical router, and they're not going to be plunging. You can set it that depth. Drop it in there, and where that hole is with your jig, so that you're not starting up and just grabbing. Okay, you're sitting there, you fire it up, go around. Okay, stop, unscrew your router, drop another 1/2 inch, go around. So you don't need a plunge router, because mine was $400 plunge router, so you can buy a freaking $400 plunge router, make a box. But if you guys got a typical router, that's just another way to do it, so that you can utilize what you have. So I'll get on and I'll show you, I'll pass these around. I'll keep this in for a second. But this one, that bit was used. This bit was used. This one's a straight-sided box. This one has a curved bottom. And they tell me if you're going to sell them that people like seeing curved bottom. I ain't building them to sell them. But anyway, that's the bit. That's the configuration of each one of those bits is given on the inside. And the way I do that is really simple. Is when I'm setting that piece of wood in, the aluminum table saw made a 5-degree block. All right. it drops in the bottom here. It doesn't matter where it ends up. All it is, I still get the 5 degrees. You just want to make sure that the top, the high part, this part, the wider part, is just a tad below this rail here. So this box will sit down in there but won't move sideways, all right? Okay. And then for obvious reasons, you're going to want blocks that have a 5 degree, and of course they're taller because I'm up here, up this much higher. I didn't bring them yet. Anyway, I just brought these to show you get the picture. You want them taller with the same 5 degrees. Same time I run this, I run the wider blocks after I calculate. Do this and I put it here, calculate my height, go back and just take some scrap and run these with a 5 degree on it, because I want that thing to sit under like that. Okay, and then what you're gonna do is go around and plunge it. Okay. All right. Okay. Then you know what else I just thought of when I did. I'll take that back. When I did that, I came up with that it was wrong. I made those 5 degree blocks. I misspoke. You can. That's another way to do it. You can clamp that over here, and you have this on a 5 degree block. But what I end up doing is I put this in here by using a straight one. I found it was quicker. I used the straight one, and I just popped a little shim right in here, and kept this level. And then I just cut the one side, and I took it out, turned it around, cut the one side, and it was done. Just misspoke. Sorry. Okay. The other thing is if in that process of using the Forstner bit and you want to deal with 5 degrees, you can do the same thing. I can use this jig, go over and clamp it, put it on for those who don't have I did this for those that don't have any kind of router, but have a drill press. You can do the same thing, but put 5 degrees on angle on here by using Forstner. Okay. But if you want a 5 degree angle on here, I just made a 5 degree that go over and clamp. I've made this so I can clamp it in here, clamp it in there, and then this will cut. It'll cut a 5 degree angle here. So that's just whether you want to do it or not. It's just some tricks. But so anyway, okay. If I've plunged it, all right, with the plunge router. I'm done with that. And I'm at the point where, and the nice part of the reason I do it plunge router, it's not production, it just comes out damn smooth. You know, this thing I haven't sanded it yet. I haven't done anything with it. A nice sharp bit, you know, as opposed to starting with this and doing this, you know, and getting it to this point, you know. And now I still have to get in there, you know, go in and watch, you know, CNN and bore yourself to death and say, you know, whatever, with an apron on. But if that's all you got is a drill press, cool. I mean, it doesn't take as long, but I just say, well, why should I do it if I got the machines to do it? So I use the plunge router. I did these to show you how I started before I figured all this out. This one, and this one both were done with a drill press, and then it's all done by hand. These are made for these narrow ones here. This one's made for the wider one. And you just cut it to the width of the whatever you want. And then I'll go over and I'll throw it on the table saw, and you can see here, I cut it out, and then I run over the table saw. I just took a 1 degree to put a 1 degree bevel. I just get some material out of the way. Just I run it back through there, take a 1 degree, be back just because I'm gonna create a concave surface right here. You can see it's just a concave surface. I'll pass them around, but anyway. And then what I do is sometimes I'll take it, grab my spoke shave, just peel her down real quick, or a block plate. If you got a block plate, you don't have a spoke shave. But I always end up with these scrapers, and I'm just taking a little bit of time. And you see the stuff flies. And you just keep rotating, keep beveling until you get it down to a concave surface, you know, like that. And there again, it's by sound. It's just you're gonna trial and error, trial and error. Now, what I did for the demonstration, I did this to show that, and I completed this one. And as far as just put whatever kind of handle suits you. But when I'm using a call, I like to use them upside down, and I always use the 2 fingers. Let this hand loose. You don't want to grab it. It's long. It's all fingers. Or even if you're doing fister. Actually, let's call it some chalk. But see how smooth, how slick it's getting and shiny. You can see it starts sliding. But anyway, you just want to keep them chalked up.
What is it?
This is regular. This is Primus chalk. It's for turkey calls. Don't go down to the Michael's and get the chalk that the kids use on the sidewalk, because that's got oil in it. Again, you don't want oil. But you see here we got the concave, how it's fitting on there. This particular call I got it set it's striking right here. Okay. But you put your spring, you have a spring and a screwdriver, and I didn't bring a flat blade. But I'll just put this one together. Okay, before I can do that, here's another little trick. When I'm tuning them, and I've got a paddle that I haven't put on yet, I do a lot of cheating. I'll take the old one, just hold it right here. So I'm getting pretty close with that one. I'm not there yet, but I know I got a winner, so I'll set that aside. It's not in the process of making it yet. But anyway, just determine that. We'll see the difference. That's nowhere near. See, because the sides are too thick. That one I've got the sides thin. That one's thicker. This one's going to be a different sound, but I thinned it last night on the table saw. So I'll just got a little rasp to it, so that one's ready to put a paddle on and start tuning. I'm still not necessarily going to be done with it. I know I'm not done with this one just by looking at it, but also just to demonstrate. I get my springs at the hardware store. I don't like them any thicker than this. I actually like them a little thinner because it's really, this is a kind of a stiffer than I like. And then the only reason I like them thinner is because I want to be able to draw it down and just not fight it. So if I get the thicker ones, I put a little pocket in there for it to set in. But I only want that much. You know, I don't want to fight that heavier spring. But so I'm just gonna this one I haven't even played with this one, but I was curious about it. Anyway, put a spring on it, throw a screw in it. And I don't know what these sound like. This is just all demonstration here. I haven't got them ready. This one.
Is it like a 1-inch spring?
Yeah, it's about a 1-inch spring, and I'm just gonna. Okay, that isn't bad to start with here, I think. But I'm going to chalk it up, and I don't know, we're all going to hear it for the first time. That's kind of a deep sound. That was a good side, that's a nice side. Sweeter spot. So I'll crank it down to see, because that's going to change where the location, where it falls on the box. Let's go for a little bit further. I'm going to thin that a little more on that side. Okay, the other thing you do is there might be too much flat surface here, and I can see that there is. So I'm going to take the scraper. Okay, that's square. I'm going to tilt it up just a little because I want to get some of that flatness off there. So I'll feel some of that flatness while we're at it here. I can have less surface touching this paddle. And that may be all it takes. You don't have to do any more thinning. I also make these. I take my old sanding belts off my belt sanders when they blow up, or this one happens to be a new one, and I just glue them to a block of wood. You get that in there. And I'm just going to put a taper on it so they got a little bit of an edge on it. And this will sound different, I'll guarantee you. So. We're coming a little further there. Doesn't quite roll over, and that's probably some of that, the fact that it doesn't roll over could be this paddle. Just take a little more off this side, slowly shock on there. You'll see that I'm just taking heavy off one side. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Take the heavy off that side. And I'll just kind of slowly taper it up to the middle, not take anything off the middle. Taper it up to the middle and not take anything off. And we'll see if she'll roll over. And that, so you got to tune the paddle as much as you got to tune the box. So drop back a little bit, see what happens. It may, sweet spot may be on the back of this car, but usually this is in the front end. It's got some weird. That's still the best side. Now it's rolling. But if I taper that paddle a little more, it'll probably roll even a little better. But you're trying to get this. John wasn't going to sell to him, so a little too high. He took it with him and he said if he hadn't had the call, he wouldn't have got a turkey. That wind was so high that high yelp was, you know. And I got a really good one. I was hunting at Fort Robinson out in Nebraska, in Panhandle, Nebraska, hunting Miriam's out there. I was taking my pines, the bottom of the foothills of, you know, South Dakota, Black Hills. And we got up there and got all set up and just, you know, first light coming up, and all of a sudden I heard this thing. It's like, you know, and I go, oh Christ, we sit up right next to this guy, you know. And he's a horse shit collar, you know. And so I'm going, what the hell are we gonna do, you know? So I'm trying to think of plan B. And it kept getting closer. It was a goddamn hen. I mean, she sounded like shit. I mean, she was terrible sounding. So, you know, and that's the other thing. When you go to the National Federation, you know, their turkey call cutting, there's only 5% is on sound. The rest of it's on, you know, craftsmanship, originality, what have you. They don't even blow the flute. They don't even suck the flute because they kept using a disinfectant in between when they're doing their sound, you know, from the different judges, you know, because they're putting it in their mouth. That was taking finish off, so they quit even more. So there's the flutes that they judge them just by look. They don't even go by sound. But only, even in the box calls, all the calls, there's only 5% of it is on sound, because a turkey can sound like any freaking thing, you know. But anyway, this is close. I think it's going to be the paddle on that one, because I know this wall is thin, and it may be too thin. I may have to back off on the blade and not cut it that deep.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Once you finally get that box all tuned up, if you use it a lot, does it change on you again?
It can change. You can.
So then you got to go back and redo it.
I just use these, you know, and you know, it can change, and it'll change with weather too. So that's the other thing with these things. If you seal them, but you should always seal that side. Obviously, you're not going to seal this surface. You're not going to seal this surface. You can make it nice. But I'm kidding.
And then you were saying you were making them real smooth on the inside. That's for sound quality?
For sound. It's for thinning. You smooth them for. It's the thinning. It's the tuning. The tuning can be done on the inside by thinning with the scrapers, like I said, or in this case, you can thin them on the outside. You can do it with routers. I've seen some really nice calls that the guy had looked like a raised panel, like a kitchen cabinets, laid down a plunge router with a V-bed, and he's thinning the outside. And he's known for his calls that they've got these raised panels. I forget his name. He's from out in South Dakota, and he makes them pretty much all out of cherry. But he does all his thinning on the outside. He'll take the plunge router down a little further, and he gets that all out here, and then he'll stop and he'll take a plunge router with a straight bit and peel off. You know, he does it all mechanically. And creates these raised panel ones. Kind of curious with it. Now this is a wider call. If you notice the difference. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here.
You take several of these out of the hunt?
Yeah, I'll have 2 or 3 box calls for different reasons. A little shrill. Oh, there's a good one. That would be my side right there. That's a good cutter. It's a nice cutter. And then you can make a good cutter. You can make a nice cut. There's a single cut they'll do. Yeah, that'd be a good cutter. And you just hold your finger up against it. That's a single sound you'll hear otherwise. So that one, this side's ready. This side. That could be better if I tune it down a little bit.
Why wouldn't you make it 2 different sounds so it sounds like 2 different turkeys?
I do. This one's got 2 different sounds, and I love it for that. And this one could be 2 different. No, that's better. Just need to be screwed down. That's real high pitch. So that's a deeper pitch. So I'll see if it rolls. There again, I may have to play with this paddle. It doesn't roll over very good. That one's good. That's a good roll. It rolls over nice. So there's 2. That's the first time I've ever done it. So that's nice sound. Now, again, this one's got the deep, thick walls on it. And just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna see if I can make a nice deep sound just by cutting an angle on here and getting less surface. And it may not work, but it's always worth a try. If you want a nice deep call to leave your sides thick, and then cut that taper off. So there's a little bit of a surface area on the very outside edge. You gotta take one show it off. All right.
Let me ask you another question.
Sure.
So on the box, you got the arc this way, right? Now on the striking, on the paddle, the part that hits that is concave this way?
Yeah, it's concave that way.
Okay, yeah.
I'll have him turn that one around and see. But I'm just gonna shits and giggles here. First time, if I want a surface now, right here, it's about a 1/16 of an inch. This is each side's even less. So then what I'll do is just see what this sounds like. And it may not be worth a damn. And if it isn't worth a damn, all I gotta do is keep tapered down inside the box. And I'll be able to get it to tune into something. But again, these are all out of cedar. If I had, but these are all walnut, straight grain walnut paddle again. I picked that paddle out because it's nice straight grain. See, I remember when I was playing with this one, it didn't sound like a crap. All I did is cut that quick bevel. Now I left those walls thicker than these 2 here. I left them thicker. They were about 3/16, and I just put that quick bevel on down to where I just had a 1/16 of a surface, 1/16 of an inch of surface. This one you have to work a little harder at on the strike. But sometimes it's simple enough. As simple as because that spring's on there, just turn the paddle a little bit while you're doing it. You know. So now this is hard on my fingers because I haven't sanded it. That's a real raspy one right there. That probably won't roll over. That's a little too high to roll there. Another deep run pin. As opposed to this, it's a high throated pin. This is a higher throated pin.
That'd be the big shot. Really?
Well, that's what I do. But now this can be walnut. You know, this box can be walnut. Have fun with wood. This just stay away from oily wood. So, but yeah, that one's killed 6 turkeys in 3 days.
They got similar woods? You could have it all on it?
They can be all walnut. John did a really nice one. It's all walnut, and it's got. Mark brought some tonight. I went and got what I use. I don't know what you use, but I use a pin mandrel for making pins. I got a rocker, and I put it on and chuck it up. I drill a 1/4-inch hole in it and chuck them up on a pin mandrel. This is Jatoba. This is a piece of apple, which is pretty nondescript. This is Jatoba here. This is Jatoba walnut, and I put a walnut leaf on it just for the hell of it. These aren't done. But I'm not going to get them. I'm not going to finish them and turn them real out, make them real pretty. They don't work. So, but they are. So they're coming along.
Hey, thank you for being answered.
See, that's a higher one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish these. Oh, come on. But I am going to finish these because they both have good sound. So what I'll do is I'll clean up the mouthpieces and what have you, finish the thing on the insides and what have you. I cut them this way so I can put them in a lanyard. So these lanyard to hang.
How big a hole you got in there?
This I went with about a little. This one was a little. I'm trying to remember. 7/64ths, and then I take it and
That's awful big, isn't it?
grind it out small. Well, no, actually, you can see it. It works. I mean, you're just trying to create 3/8 here and then belt it out. But you can't. You gotta get. I start with as small a drill bit as I can until I get air through the way it's sound. But I think it's 7/64ths that I end up with on here. But then I go ahead and take my old Dremel and. Or Fordham, whatever, with a small Dremel head tool, and I widen them. And the only reason I do that is because if you make a wing bone one, you can make you can make them out of the wing bone of a turkey, and it's just there's certain sections that you cut out of the wing bone that fit inside each other, and you glue them together. There's 3 different sections. You end up about this long, maybe a little less. But the piece that you put in your mouth of the wing bone is shaped like that. So I don't know if it's right or wrong, I just did it because that's the way it was. But this one's higher. This one's lower. Now, there's a sweet spot on your lip, and you'll find your sweet spot on your lip when you do it. And so then what I do is I'll cut a little groove in here and go get an O-ring and pop down. So Marv had a collar on, you had a collar on yours that you could carve. Well, I just use an O-ring and pop it on there. So that when I got a turkey in front of me, I'm not trying, okay, where the hell do I put it, you know? You go to that sweet spot. Then, that was all good. But anyway, it's a sweet spot on your lip. And so if I was going to make one for you, or for you, I'd make it, and then you're going to have to find a sweet spot, and we'll mark it, and then we cut it, and then put the O-ring in your lip. Just however you get the vibration, you're sucking it, and it's the vibration just on the inside of your lip here that you're creating that. And you get it to roll over. You hear that little, that I use a crappie pattern, and then I'm putting a turkey on it. And so,
You're like a native.
hybrid crappie.
It's like a totem.
What kind of wood is that?
It's a kirky. Huh?
What kind of wood is that?
This is walnut. So.
Steve, 2 routers.
But anyway, but the thing about slate call now is you got to be able to get the sound out of it. So by the reason I put the turkey on it is I'm going to be able to undercut it and get the sound out of this box without drilling holes in the crappie. Same way, so I'm going to go ahead and put on the fins. When I put the fins on, then I'm going to put access holes to the inside. But But I figured out with the dorsal and pectoral fins, I put my fingers right up through here, and I can pinch the dorsal and hold that thing, and then, you know. Now, John's really getting known for his turtles. And so you got all these openings where the legs and the, you find a dead turtle shell, or a dead turtle shell, you got all those openings, so that's your automatic opening. But this situation, I had to figure out a way to get holes in this thing. So I'm undercutting his gill, I raise his gill, I'm using that for getting my holes in, and I threw this turkey on here, and I'll continue undercut wherever I can and need to get the sound out of it. And then again, with my dorsal fin and pectoral fin, I'll put it on here. If you look at it from this side, you won't be able to see it. But if you flip it over, the holes are going to be on this side of it. And that's no big deal. Just, is it a practical one to carry out in the field? Who gives a rat's ass? I'm going to put a landing around it. But I mean, it's why not have fun with it? You can I can turn all these on the lathe all I want. I got a damn lathe. I can just spin boxes and spin it so the slate where the nice pretty cutouts drop in there, But here's the key now on these is this has got to be thin, and that's the other reason for the turkey. When I'm done, that turkey you're going to almost put your finger through it. I mean, you want it thin. That's over exaggeration. But the problem with making them out of Jatoba or walnut or whatever is, well, let me back up. It's easiest to make them out of basswood because you can keep thinning from the inside after you got the outside where you want it. Thin from the inside, keep thinning, hold it up to the light. You see through it, start seeing through it, you're getting close enough. And that's your soundboard, that thin wood is your soundboard. The other thing you can do is you can leave it thicker, then you put a pedestal back there and you can put a metal soundboard in there. So you get, thin brass, and you can create metal soundboard. But I'm going to play around and thin this, just probably so I can screw
Why don't you
it
put a
up.
hole in the vent hole with craps?
Yeah, that's another one. I can. I'll put a hole in, and I'm going to open the mouth up too. So any place I can figure out where I can put a hole, that's where it's going to be. But that'd be fun to put the turkey on there, and it also as a practical purpose is it's going to be where I get the holes out, and that's where he's going to be my soundboard too. So now I'm not going to burn the scales and everything into this fish probably, but I will take the turkey further, and I'll probably leave the fish natural, and I'm going to wash in color on the turkey. This was on it. So, and I may wash in a little color wherever I can find this would work on this fish, but I may not wash. I might have to put a little white on it and wash in the color. I may not. I may just do this natural fish and wash in some color on the turkey. So make it subtle. I don't want it to be gaudy. But anyway, so it's just I've been playing around with that. And like I say, I got enough slate for three right now for three boards right now for 3 slate calls.
Would you cut that slate?
Yeah, just throw a cutting blade in, a Fordham tool or a Dremel tool or something, and you can just cut it. And then you can, once you get it rough shaped with a cutting tool, then start grinding on it. Now I'm going to cut a lip in here for the slate to sit in after I've got this all thin the way I want them. The last thing I'm going to do is cut a plate in there for the thickness of the slate, or in this case I'll probably drop it just a hair below that wood because it's going to protect it. And then also the other thing, they tell me, and I haven't made that many slate calls, they tell you can't really count on the sound if you just hot melt glue that slate in there or hold in there to get your sound. Hope the sound's right, But there are ways that you can pop it in there and hold it and just get it close, and then finally you're gonna put the damn thing in there. And maybe if it's wrong, you're gonna bust the slate, get it back out, and you're gonna keep tuning it, and so you can waste some slate if you're, but that's the name of the game. But I don't know, this is just for the fun of it. And that ain't the total answer, it's just what I know, and it's what's worked. And there's a lot of people out